How to stop worrying and begin living with Dale Carnegie Anxiety may be a complete waste of your time. No problem has ever been solved by worrying about it. Problems are solved with rational thought and decisive action. Don't fret, a chair that provides you something you'll be able to do but it never reaches you nowhere for nearly a century. Author Dale Carnegie taught speaking courses in NY City and saw how his students struggled with unproductive anxiety after learning a series of anti-anxiety techniques from people like industrialist and WWII. Admiral Ernst King used his speech-making courses as a laboratory to check techniques for 5 years. Students from the Carnegie class tested his anti-anxiety techniques and reported their efficacy back to the category. Carnegie says, "I assume I've listened more to conversations about how I conquered anxiety over anyone else walked this earth. There are many remedies to prevent anxiety and begin living more productively, but there are 3 anxious treatments that Carnegie found to be particularly effective. Treating anxiety first will eliminate 90% of your anxiety. The second anxiety treatment will remove the remaining 10% within. The third anxiety treatment will prevent the anxiety from creeping back to your life." The primary treatment for anxiety in life. Analyze your anxiety. In 1942. American Galen Litchfield was running an Asian non-depository financial institution in Shanghai when a Japanese admiral entered his office and demanded at gunpoint to liquidate the company's assets and hand them over to the Japanese Empire that had recently invaded China. Litchfield did what he was told, that he liquidated all of the company's assets aside from the $750,000 block of securities that were owned by his urban center branch. Days later, the Japanese admiral revealed what Litchfield had done. When Litchfield received news of this, that he had been paralyzed for fear of challenging the Japanese army and assumed that he would be thrown within the bridge house, tortured Jack Gestapo's J. Humber, who let little discuss it, then again gathered Litchfield himself and did what he did when he was anxious. He visited his typewriter and wrote 2 questions on what I'm worried about and what I can do about it. He wrote out the solution to the primary question that I fear are thrown at the bridge house tomorrow morning. Then spend the subsequent few hours thinking and writing different courses of labor. He can make the primary choice. Rise up for the admiral. But since the admiral didn't speak English, he would probably get frustrated when he spoke to a translator and threw me into the bridge house anyway, where I could escape away. But there is a good chance you'd follow me and lock me up within the bridge house. The third option, I could stay home for ages time and that I hope the admiral forgets what happened. But odds are he will feel suspicious of my absence and track me down. With a choice, I can visit the office tomorrow morning and act like nothing happened, and he hopes the admiral has bigger things to stress about. After writing down his concerns and different work paths, he can take a glance at the page, analyze his options objectively and simply decide what to try and do next. Within the book that Litchfield says that has shown that 50 of my fears faded away as soon as I reach a transparent and specific decision, and another 40% usually disappear once I start implementing that call. Realizing that his 4th choice is his highest likelihood of a positive outcome, he committed to a choice and bypassed it outside all other work streams. The subsequent morning, Litchfield entered the office and acted as if nothing had happened. The admiral stared at him as he was doing okay, but he said nothing. After 6 weeks, the admiral returned to Tokyo and Litchfield never saw him again. While you are feeling anxious about something, grab a pen and paper and write 2 questions about what worries me and what I can do about it. After carefully describing your anxiety, write a minimum of 3 courses of action that you simply can take. Then determine which course of action has the best likelihood of a positive outcome. If the choice is just too difficult, keep going for any good selection for 5 minutes and stop worrying if the choice continues. After 5 minutes you're feeling you're right. If you do not act on your next best option, the more actions you're taking, your anxiety will now fade to obviate the remaining 10% of your anxiety. Kind of like Willis. The conveyor. Willis invented the primary electric air-con unit and spent quite 20 years building a haulage company, but early in his career, he worked as an engineer installing equipment at gas stations when a project started going very wrong. The carrier is anxiously consuming. He was afraid that he would lose his job and damage his reputation. So how did he overcome this anxiety that he imagined the day after the failure of the project and his reputation was damaged and he was unemployed? the carrier was still alive and he knew if he was working hard he could find a replacement job and stand on his feet by learning to measure with the worst-case scenario. His anxiety dissipated, freed from the burden of hysteria. He could think clearly again, which allowed him to work out that adding additional equipment to the project might achieve the result that the customer wanted. After implementing his new solution, the project succeeded and his company moved from the likelihood of losing $20,000 to reaping $15,000, which was a tiny low fortune in 1899. Willis says that one in every of the worst worrying features is that it destroys our ability to focus. Once we are worried that our minds jump here, there and everywhere and that we lose all decision-making power. But once we force ourselves to facing the worst and accepting PT mentally, then we remove all those vague fantasies and put ourselves in an exceedingly position where we will concentrate on our problem. Within the book that Carnegie says, accept our worst from the good gray clouds that we come across. Once we are blind by it, relieves anxiety and instills our good, solid feet on the bottom. An easy thanks to experience. The ability of accepting the worst is to make an inventory of tasks that you simply have to do today. After making an inventory of urgent and important tasks, go into reverse and accept that at the top of the day, nothing there on list has been accomplished. And after your acceptance for that bitter truth, ask yourself, how I can improve this terrible day now. Any task that you just complete will want a gift. Suddenly the list you were worried about becomes a listing of opportunities once you take time to research your anxiety. So accept the worst and improve it. There is a decent chance to eliminate your anxiety, but to forestall anxiety from sneak into your life, go on a decent day. Compartments within the early 20th century were designed for giant ocean ships in order that one part of them may well be closed with iron doors that prevent water leaks, preventing the ship from sinking. And this analogy is applied to your life, where you act sort of a captain of an enormous ship who has the flexibility to press a button and shut the iron doors in today's booth to stop yesterday's fears and tomorrow's fears from flooding your mind. To activate your iron doors, do two things. First, get up every morning and picture that you simply reside a replacement life. Imagine your old self died last night and your worries and regrets are dead with them, and this morning is that the first day for the remainder of your life. So tell yourself, if I'd care today, tomorrow, and she or he will make sure of herself. In Dale Carnegie's book, he says that the most effective possible things to harden tomorrow is to focus with all of your intelligence and enthusiasm on doing the work of today in a very good way today. And this is often the sole possible way by which you'll be able to harden the foe during warfare too. Admiral Ernst King famously said that I provided the most effective men with the simplest equipment we had and gave them what looked as if it would be the wisest task, and it had been all I could do. And therefore the Admiral was sleeping soundly nightly because he knew he did everything in his power that day to form tomorrow successful. So if you wish to prevent worrying and begin living, eliminate 90% of your anxiety by writing your anxiety in fine detail, then writing down a minimum of 3 cycles of actions you'll take, then make a choice and take action. Any residual anxiety by accepting the worst and asking yourself how I can improve from the worst, then to forestall any new fears from creeping back to your life. And also the practice of living in cramped cubicles by imagining a day could be a new life and telling yourself, if I does one better make sure of the day tomorrow, she is going to be sure of herself. That was the fundamental message I gathered from A Way to Stop Worrying and Begin Living by Carnegie. The methods during this book are amazing and particularly powerful because it absolutely was written quite 70 years ago. If you liked this video, please share it. Many thanks for watching.